Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Villains on the Rebirth server. We are with Nightmare Lass, our level 45, almost level 46 Mastermind, who has 22 million plus experience earned, and with 45,000 more XP, we will be leveling up. Run a story arc for our contact Terrence Dobbs, and let's see. I think this is the one. Those arachnoids are everywhere. I just got word that a bunch of them snuck aboard a cargo ship to Paragon City. Head over and get rid of those arachnoids. So it's really funny. We only have an hour to do this. Well, shouldn't take us anywhere near an hour. It's really funny that this guy is supposedly this great exterminator, but he hasn't done anything. He's just sent me to go kill everything, which lets you know that his reputation is a lie. Because what he probably does is just get the villain characters, the other player characters, to do his dirty work for him, and then he collects the reputation. It's pretty funny. So I'm not gonna summon the babies because I think we're gonna probably be moving around outdoors, or maybe not. All right, we're in a warehouse. It's sort of weird that we took a ship to a warehouse, but okay. Since it's in Paragon City, that's why they did it that way. I thought they were gonna have us, sort of outside like a bank robbery mission, but I guess not. It's really interesting that this level range, from like 41 to 50, in the hero side, you're constantly outdoors doing outdoor missions and Portal Corp, and you don't really do that with the villains. You stay with the indoor missions. It's kind of interesting that they chose to do that, and I wonder why they didn't try to come up with more outdoor options for the villains, since they had done that for the heroes. You'd think that that's what they wanted for us to do, but I don't really know. It looks like we are on +1. Did I do it right this time? I did. Excellent. Yep. So these arachnoids are not very powerful. They go down pretty easily, and they seem to not be resistant at all to what we're doing to them. So, I mean, it might be that if we used a different damage type, they would be a little harder. Midas Touch badge. What is that for? We earned over 10 million infamy. Well, we've actually got a lot more than that, but that's just the amount they've earned in combat. Let's take a look at the prestige. We've earned nearly 500,000 prestige, actually, on a single character. That's not bad. Oh, and there's a boss. So let me cut his defense down. We know that this thing recharges in about a minute or so, we can do it regularly if we want. I don't tend to bother with it against lieutenants, but we can certainly do it against bosses without any issues. By the time we're done with this battle, it'll be halfway to recharged already. And we have leveled up. We are level 46. And I'm not sure if Triple XP weekend is still going on. Today's Monday, so they probably rebooted the servers last night. By 8,000, it looks like we're still doing Triple XP weekend. If a minion's giving me almost 9. No, well, that's a lieutenant. In 3,700, I'm not really sure. Kill him. So yeah, I'm still thinking about, for my solo tabletop experience, just exactly what I want to do. I've been wildly indecisive about it. I actually purchased the both hardcover and PDF versions. I have the PDF. I'm waiting to receive the hardcover version of the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition rulebook, so-called SWADE, SWADE, which is the acronym for that version of the book. It's the newest edition, which came out, I think originally came out in somewhere like spring, summer of 2019. The actual PDF file that I have, and I don't know what the book, the printed book, is going to say on it, but the PDF file that I have is dated November of 20. so that's just a month ago, which means it's the newest update. And I've read through much of it. The claim was that it's so much less complicated than a lot of other game systems. I'm not sure I buy that. And oh, I was going to say, why is this guy +0? But he's +0 because I leveled up. Speaking of that, I need to dismiss my minions and resummon them so that they gain a level, right? Because they're only level 45 and below. So as soon as these guys are dead, I will resummon. I don't know. It seems every bit as complicated as champions to me. They name things differently, and they calculate things differently, but it's effectively the same as champions. In the sense that you get a small number of powers and abilities, and they're worth points, and then you can raise them by adding more points to them or buying things that upgrade them. There are no levels, just like there are no levels in D&D. The system is quite elegant, I think, and I think I'm going to enjoy playing it at some point when I finally get around to doing that. But it doesn't live up to the reputation that it had as being super simple. I'm not sure I buy that it's simple. It's got tons of skills, tons of what they call edges, which are feats, a bunch of powers, a whole bunch of background options, and 5 stats, which is, D&D has 6, so it's not like that's going to make it simpler. So I don't know. I'm not sure why it's supposedly so much simpler. I think from what I've seen of the way the combat works, the combat is a little more fluid than D&D combat, and it seems like the game is, to some degree, as strange as it sounds, since all role-playing games rely on random elements except the diceless ones, such as the Chronicles of Amber role-playing game. It seems more random to some degree than other systems, and I think mainly because of the bennies, as they call them, which are these basically re-roll chips you get for at the start of each session. You get 3, and then if you role play well obviously you wouldn't do this in a solo game, but if you role play well, the GM can award more bennies, and it lets you re-roll skill checks and other things. Even like to cast a spell or whatever, you have to like make a skill check, and if you fail the skill check, the spell doesn't go off. If you fail it badly enough, the spell backfires and damages you. There's very little of that kind of randomness in a game like D&D, or mostly Champions, unless you take the limitation activation or burnout. In Champions, all powers just work when you want them to work. So it seems like there's actually more randomness to the game than you would get in even in most role-playing games. And it doesn't seem, what's the word, dramatically less, the word is crunchy, I guess, in terms of number crunchy. Seems like there's quite a lot of numbers and skills and that sort of thing. So it seems, by the way, very interesting and a well-balanced game from what I've seen, and something I would like to try playing. But if the big selling point is it's super simple, I'm not sure that I see why it's so simple. I do think there is a change between the old version and the new. The previous version, the deluxe edition, was, I think, only like half as thick as the current edition. So they added a whole bunch of stuff to the current edition that wasn't in the old one, and maybe that's why people said it was easy, because they were talking about the older edition. Not really sure on that, but that doesn't matter to me that it's crunchy. I like crunchy games. It just sort of surprised me that it was as complicated as it was. Let's see. We're going to the Arbiter now, and we're going to get 3 more slots for our powers. And by the way, I would say that, for instance, the game Ironsworn, which is hundreds of pages, but they're really short, kind of pages that are formatted with much less density of words per page than, say, the Champions Rules or D&D or Savage Worlds. That game has, frankly, very few rules. Right? It's not very mechanics heavy, but I found it just as complicated to play in its own way. In fact, maybe more complicated, because you couldn't appeal to the rules to know what to do. You had to kind of come up with a narrative of what to do and an interpretation. It actually made it, I think, somewhat more difficult. So it's not necessarily the case that just because there are fewer mechanics that the game is going to be a lot easier to play. Maybe, maybe not. Alright, so we're going to trade up to our next level, and we have 3 more slots. So what was I planning on doing? Was I going to do Painbringer? I think I was thinking of that. And I was going to 6-slot Suppress Pain. Right? I think those were the guys I was thinking of. So, and we can't really do anything with this, right? Enhanced resistance, maybe, does that? Yeah, see, it doesn't, I can't see here what, I can't see here what enhancements it takes, but I don't think we need any extras on Enforced Morale. So I think what I'm going to do is finish 6-slotting Suppress Pain so we can put either another Doctored Wounds or a, what's the other one, Preventive Medicine in here so we can get a set. And then we have 1 slot available, we'll add it to Painbringer. I ended up 6-slotting both of those powers. So now the question is, do we have any recipes that we can put in here? Painbringer, we'd want to put healing in. And then this one, we want to put reduced endurance cost in to cut the endurance down. It's not really doing that much of an endurance cost. We're going to leave this one empty. Actually, this is just going to be for putting in our inventions. I don't think there's really any point to adding endurance reducers on this, just as straight endurance reducers. This thing we can put a heal on. Do we have it? We do, and we have the materials for it, so let's go ahead and grab a heal. Do we have any... So for invention, what have we got? We have a Doctored Wounds. I just don't know if we want to do Doctored Wounds or Preventive Medicine on this. This will increase our smashing and lethal resistance by another 1.5%, bringing it up to 50, almost 58. And our Mez resistance, that'll go up. We can also get improvements to our healing powers by plus 4%, which is good. Our research charge time will go up even better to like 28% buff. And our toxic and psi resistance will go up to almost 40%. 38.9. That's not bad to think about that. But we do want to get the 1 heal so that we can put that into the Suppress Pain. So let's go to the base and we will invent. And what do we have for reward merits? We have 195, so we have a ways to go. To get Preventive Medicine, we would need a considerable amount. I believe somewhere on the order of 1,000. It's like 200 each, and we have 1 Preventive Medicine that we've invented already, I think, in storage. If we look. I thought we had 1. Maybe I was wrong. I could have sworn I had a Preventive Medicine. Unless I already built it. No, it doesn't look like it. Maybe my memory is failing me. Alright, so heal. Got one of these. We'll create. Alright, and then we're going to put this one on there. Right, so now if we look at the info, it's doing a plus 700% regeneration rate in the radius around me and my buddies. Now if we take a look at... I thought we had a preventive. Yeah. So we have 1. So this one will do 2% smashing lethal resistance. Increase our health. I don't really care about that. Fire and cold resistance. We could use some of that. Reduced endurance cost is okay, and then recharge time is pretty good, but it doesn't give us a boost to healing. So maybe the Doctored Wounds is just going to be better. I really like, as you've seen with my other playthroughs, I like stacking what I have rather than trying to spread everything out. Defenses, maybe, if you're doing damage types, you want to spread it out. But things like with my Scrapper, my Reflex Scrapper, whose power was defense. I didn't try to get a lot of resistance on her. I just kept stacking defense, defense, defense to make her defense as awesome as possible. So I tend to like doing that. And same thing with this character. If she's mostly healing her minions, I think I want to stack heal, heal, heal. So if we do doctored wounds, we only need about 250 on the reward merits, and we're at 195. So in pretty short order, we should be able to get to 250, and then we can slot up that power that we just put 2 enhancers on, suppress pain. Okay, so he says you cleared it out. Great job, Nightmare Lass. You see, there's not much to these story arcs. Are we still on one, or is it done? Okay. How about doing some arachnoid hunting? If you're interested, you can head in and start thinning out the arachnoids. So kill 20 arachnoids in the gutter. Alright, well, you guys know what that means. That means we're going to pause, and I will do it and bring you back when I've defeated the 20 arachnoids. Alright, folks, we have completed this mission, and we're going to contact Terrence Dobbs, who says clues. It all started with Terrence Dobbs. We were thinning out the arachnoid population in the gutter. He thanked us, but commented on how he had a better weapon for dealing with the arachnos. Okay, so he's going to maybe give us a new weapon to kill them with. He says, nice job cleaning out the arachnoids from the gutter. You know what I said about finding something to take out arachnoids better? Well, I know Cray is always messing around with science and biology stuff. I heard from a buddy of mine that Cray's got a chemical research lab in Cap au Diable, where they just got a shipment of heavy-duty pesticides, so maybe we can use that, head over there and get it. Alright, I think we are going to teleport over there, since it's in another whole zone, and this will make it quicker. So in case you were looking, guys, right up here in the gutter is where you can find the arachnoids. It's sort of annoying because there are also arachnos in here fighting the arachnoids, so when you spawn in, when you come in there, it looks like there's a bunch of spawns, and then it turns out a bunch of them are fighting each other, and the arachnos end up killing the arachnoids, and it's a little bit of a pain to find. But fortunately, I was able to get enough of them quickly enough with my minions that it only took about 10 minutes, so it wasn't too bad. So now we're in a lab, Cray lab, so it's not an arachnos lab, and we are going to see if we can find the weapon reports and the chemical weapon itself. So, like the weapon and how to use it, I guess. So one of the interesting comments that I saw online about Savage Worlds, speaking of that game, and I'm going to get off the topic of Savage Worlds fairly quickly, but I just want to kind of enter into the topic and show how I got around to this, to what I've been doing the last day or two, instead of playing as many games as I usually do. Why are we on +0 here? This is supposed to be +1, I guess because the story arc maybe is capped at 45, maybe that's the case. Anyway, looking through Savage Worlds, my initial plan was to do a D&D style fantasy using the Savage Worlds game system, because although Savage Worlds as a game isn't all that much less complex than D&D, in terms of the rules, it does seem that characters are much less complex, because they don't have as many abilities generally, at least at the lower levels, as a D&D character tends to have. And so it seems like it'd be easier to play it solo, and especially if you're playing multiple characters. And Trevor Duvall certainly made it seem that way on his Me, Myself, and Die Season 1, which I just finished the other day, and I can highly recommend it. It's very well done, and I found it quite enjoyable. It's one of the better online gaming shows, even though he's all by himself. He does a really good job. He produces really high quality videos and with sound effects and everything, and he does a nice job. But anyway, so looking into that, I was thinking, well, he used Savage Worlds for his fantasy rather than D&D, and so obviously it means it can be done, and I saw how he did it. There's a fantasy companion, and I bought that for $10, the PDF. They don't have the book anymore. It's sort of out of print because I think they're getting ready to go sometime in the next few months to upgrade to the current version of Savage Worlds, because that fantasy companion is a bit old. It's from like 2012 or something. And so they need to rewrite it and publish a new edition of it, and so they're getting ready to do that. So they're not selling the old one on in print anymore, which is fine. I probably wouldn't have bought it in print because I knew it was old. So anyway, I have the Fantasy Companion, and I was planning to just do straight up, hex crawl, dungeon crawl fantasy. And I was reading comments by somebody who was a DM who had been playing D&D, and we've over aggroed here, but that's okay because these guys are only +1, so we should be all right. And this guy was saying that he liked Savage Worlds better. He thought it was less complicated. This was, I think, even the older version of Savage Worlds. I can't remember now, but he said, he convinced his players to try it, and he got them to try it, but they're really struggling, and they keep wanting to play it like you play D&D. We've got a clue, and this is a short mission, it looks like, so we'll do another one. And the clue says we've got the X-76 gas canister, so this must be the weapon. And now we need the plans, and it looks like there's a boss in there. So I'm going to make these guys hang on. I'm going to turn invisible and see who's here. Just to see if it's an EB or something. Shouldn't be, but... oh gosh. White Con? There's no, boss here? Seriously? Ah, there we go. Okay, but it's an orange boss, so it's nothing. Alright, guys, you can follow me. There's some Cray over there, so let's pull them. Actually, we don't need to pull. They're all white cons and stuff. Yeah, just come with me, guys. So, anyway, he said his players are having a hard time kind of getting into the system of Savage Worlds, and they were struggling with it. And a bunch of the commenters wrote back and said, they do not advise at all playing Savage Worlds for strict fantasy right on the heels of having played D&D. That because it's so different from how D&D plays, it's going to be very hard for the players of a D&D game who are used to the D&D tropes and the D&D style of play to adapt to Savage Worlds. And it plays faster, the resource management, and also characters can do things in a very different way. And there's Arachnoid over there. Interesting. I wonder if they're making them or what. So what they recommended was try a different genre, and then come back to fantasy once you get the Savage World system. And this made a lot of sense to me because I would probably make the same recommendation about Fantasy Hero. I think if you jumped from Dungeons and Dragons straight into the hero system for fantasy, which is Fantasy Hero, you would probably find it very jarring and not very satisfying because the hero system just doesn't work the way D&D does. I mean, just not even a little bit. And you'd have to get into a very different mindset. On the other hand, if you played Champions before, and as a superhero game, you weren't trying to make it play like D&D because you were playing Champions, it would probably be a fairly easy transition to the hero system because you already you're used to the mindset of how the hero system works from Champions, which you would have played without any D&D assumptions as baggage. And then when you get to the hero system, you're making Champions assumptions, and you can adapt to it just fine. And so I suspect that that's probably the same with Savage Worlds, and so this makes me think that maybe instead of trying to do a straight fantasy game, I should try to do some sort of a different genre. There are many different genre books for Savage Worlds, both official and unofficial, and so it makes me think that I should maybe try one of the other genres to kind of play around with. And I'll continue that thought in a minute, but let's take a look at our clue. So the field test reports, these are field tests on the AX-76 and on the A456 test subjects, favorably deadly effect. So this looks like it might work. So let's call our contact, and what he says is, what? Cray's messing around with arachnoids underneath St. Marshall? What the heck? I expected to find some good chemical weapons, but I didn't expect to find custom-made arachnoid begone stuff. What the heck are they up to? Well, we're going to find out. Well, I don't know why Cray's messing with arachnoids, but as long as they're coming up with ways to put them down, I'm fine with that. Those field test reports point to arachnoid caves under St. Marshall, though I don't like the fact that the arachnoids are making their way off of Granville. We'd best do a little bit of our own field testing, head over there, and we'll wipe them out. So we got a temporary power, which is this extermination thing, arachnoid gas. I don't know, we probably won't need it. And we're going to go to St. Marshall. And, well, this will be our final mission for the evening. And you can notice with the XP boost, and we're not even using the XP boost power, just the triple XP, I guess, that they're doing. Still this week, I guess because it's a holiday week. With that, we've already gained a beat and a half into level 46 in this episode. And we were level 45 when we started. So, yeah, we're just gaining XP hand over fist. It's going to be like 2 beats at a time if it keeps up like this. So, I don't know. I'm just going to do 1 episode a day. But at this rate, it looks like by New Year's we're going to be level 47. Today is what, the 28th. So we're going to be 27th level and 47th level rather in 3 or 4 days. I would think. I think another four episodes. So this is Monday, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, New Year's Day. If I play on New Year's Day, and I probably will, because why not? Actually, I want to play on New Year's Day. I think I really want to play on New Year's Day. Because of a superstition that my grandmother used to have. She used to say, whatever you're doing on New Year's Day, you're going to do for the whole year. So she would say, like, don't do things like clean on New Year's Day, because that means you're just going to be cleaning all the time. And so I'm like, okay, so then do something fun on New Year's Day. If you play City of Heroes on New Year's Day and it means that you're going to play City of Heroes all year long, hey, thumbs up for that. I'm good on that. Don't do any work on New Year's Day, because you're going to be working all year long. Unless you want to work, right? Then, of course, you should do it on New Year's Day. Yeah, that was an old superstition, I think probably from, the early 1900s. And she used to say, whatever you do on New Year's Day, you're going to do all year long. And my mom used to bring that up whenever we were doing something, that we didn't want to do or whatever. Of course, she was always cooking a big meal. And she used to say, well, I guess it means I'm going to be cooking all year long. Which, of course, my mom generally did. Alright, so we are fighting not arachnoids, but Cray here. Interestingly enough, there's a boss. I guess these guys are just going to still be white cons because we must be over the max level for the story arc. I mean, it's not, the mission is set to +1, so... alright, we'll go get him, guys, and I'll lower his defenses. So back to what I was saying, genre. So I thought, okay, maybe I should do a different genre for Savage Worlds. Obviously, I wouldn't do superheroes. If I'm going to play superheroes, that's Champions, and Champions, not the sort of game that I think is amenable to solo play. Mainly because you have to have individually crafted villains to be the bad guys, and I don't see how you could easily do that randomly. I mean, Champions 3 does have randomizers in it where you can randomly create a character, but they're not good characters, and they're not going to be able to stand up to a well-balanced superhero that's been purposely made by a human being. It's not like D&D where there are just stat blocks for monsters and you can randomly roll on a monster table and fight them. You can't do that with Champions. You have to custom design every single bad guy, essentially. And, so, I mean, the combats are awesome. And Champions has the best combat system ever made, and I absolutely love it. And the character creation is the best ever made, too. But I think it just doesn't work for, like, doing a solo game. So I started thinking about, okay, well, what other genre is there? And there are various genre books, obviously. There's the Weird West, which is like Wild West with zombies, and there's Weird War 1 and 2, which is World War 1 and World War 2 with, like, the paranormal. And there's some other, post-apocalyptic ones, and there's, of course, straight-up horror. And so as I was, looking into the different ideas, one of the suggestions that somebody made was sort of a Lovecraftian horror. Well, I've always said I'm not a big horror fan, and I'm not a big fan of sort of generic late 20th, early 21st century Hollywood horror. Jason, um, sort of your, you know, Pennywise the clown, that kind of stuff. Just not a fan of the jump scares and all the kind of stuff that they do in a regular Hollywood movie. Haunted houses, the sort of the classical old school Halloween horror. Never been a big fan. And so I just never paid any attention to Lovecraft because it's just always been classified as horror, and I've always been like, not interested. But as I was reading up on it, I thought, well, actually, Lovecraftian horror is very different, right? It's more like weird than scary. It's disturbing rather than scary. I think it's not meant to like frighten you so that you're jumping out of your seat. It's more meant to like be disturbing and something that on reflection is a little bit weird and strange and maybe creepy. And so I thought, well, that actually is kind of different and almost like surreal rather than horror, and or at least rather than what the 20th century Hollywood presents as horror. And so I thought that maybe I should try it, and not so much for gameplay, but I really haven't had anything I've wanted to read lately. I got stuck in the middle of the Vance Fantasies, which D&D is based on, the original D&D, and I didn't really like it. And so I said, well, let me try it. So I actually, Lovecraft stuff is, I guess, in the public domain now. So for like 99 cents, I was able to buy a Nook book with every single short story and novel he's ever written, all combined in like 1,000 pages. And then that, I was having trouble with that, so I ended up buying it again from Kobo, and the Kobo thing is working great. Kobo's got a great app on the iPad, whereas the Nook app on the iPad kind of stinks. I can't even log in on the Nook pad. I don't know why. I had to change my password, so I logged out and logged in. It won't let me log in, even though I'm using the exact same password, and I can log in on the website. And no, I'm not typoing it, because I have the ability to copy and paste it, and I was able to paste it into a Google Docs, and then use the Google Docs to paste it into the Nook app, and it still wouldn't take my password. So it's, I don't know. But anyway, I started reading the Lovecraftian stuff, starting with his. I'm reading it like in the order in which he wrote it, or I guess publication order, or whatever. So I'm reading it kind of in order, rather chronological order, and not sort of order of like how famous it is or something like that. So I haven't got up to his most famous, which is probably Call of Cthulhu, Shadows of Innsmouth. A couple of the others that are the really famous ones all came much later. I'm reading the stuff that he did in like 1919 right now, 1918, 1919, something like that. And I've read the first like 8 of them. They're pretty interesting and pretty cool. I like his very sort of archaic, old school, like, even though he's an American writer, he writes like the 1800s British authors on purpose. It's part of his style. And I actually really like that style and find it fun to read. And so I've really been enjoying it. Now, whether that means I'm going to try to play a Lovecraftian version of Savage Worlds, highly doubtful. I was thinking about maybe something more horror-based, set in the modern world kind of deal. But then I thought, if I'm going to do that, a character with some powers and abilities and some skills and guns who's monster hunting in modern New York or something. Well, from a game mechanics point of view, although again not super soloable, from a game mechanics point of view, why wouldn't I just use champions? Why use Savage Worlds? I don't know. So I'm trying to figure out something that Savage Worlds would be the ideal game system to play, and that I also would want to play. So I don't know. I'm still thinking about it, and I haven't come to any decisions yet. I am still watching, actually, the group Saving Throw. There's a subgroup within there called the Wildcards, who've got several seasons worth of an East Texas University playthrough, as I've mentioned this before, and man, they are fun to watch. So I've watched 3 or 4 episodes of that and had a blast watching it. I'd love to play ETU, but again, I don't think it would be easy to solo. And there is a guy we missed. And I think the reason it wouldn't be easy to solo is because as a GM, I would have to read the source book, and that would spoil everything, you know. So I think it would be very hard to solo. So I don't know. I'm still thinking about what I would like to do. But as a benefit, some of my soul searching, if you want to call it, research, whatever you want to call it, has led me to reading some stories of Lovecraft that I've never tried before, and I find I'm really enjoying it. So, yeah, so go ahead and post in the comments what's your favorite genre of literature, or there's some genres you don't read. Have you ever had the experience of thinking you didn't like a genre and then trying a subgenre of it and going, well, I like this, even though I don't like that? You know, like I know there are people who like, for instance, they don't like Lord of the Rings fantasy, classical fantasy, but they'll like, say, urban fantasy, right? So if it's set in like 1890s London underground sewers and it's a guy hunting werewolves and um, monsters in the sewers using some magic, they'll be like, hey, that's okay, I like that, but they're not a big fan of hobbits and elves, you know. So is there some genre that's your favorite, and was there ever one where you thought you didn't like it and then you tried it and you said, hey, actually, I don't hate this, I thought I was going to? Um, Let me know in the comments. All right, so let's talk to our contact. And he says, what the heck is Cray doing with these arachnoids? I thought they were killing critters first, but if they're tagging those things, I like the sound of this nightmare last. Yeah, they're probably using the arachnoids to spy on arachnos. So we'll see. They're being tagged and doing some mark recapture experiments with them, I guess. But we will find out about that in the next episode, guys, because I think we have done enough for today. We're now almost 2 beads into level 46, so we got about 8 beads to go to get to level 47. We're still doing this guy's story arc, so theoretically, once we finish his, we should be doing another person's. But I think, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. I think we will. We will keep doing an episode a day, and because we're gaining experience so fast, if they keep the triple XP on, I don't think I'll need to kind of stop recording, because it won't take me, you know, under normal circumstances, instead of it taking me, you know, 40 minute sessions, it would take me like 15 or 16, and I wouldn't want to record them all. If I'm only doing 5 sessions a level, we can just go straight to 50. We'll see what they do with the bonus XP as things go. But we'll keep going on this next episode tomorrow. Until next time, guys, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Villains on the Rebirth server.